Awake, for morning in the bowl of night has flung the stone that puts the stars to flight, and lo, the hunter of the east has caught the Sultan's turret in a noose of light. Dreaming, when dawn's left hand was in the sky, I heard a voice within the tavern cry, "Awake, my little ones, and fill the cup before life's liquor in its cup be dry." And as the cock crew, those who stood before the tavern shouted, "Open then the door! You know how little while we have to stay, and once departed may return no more." Now, the new year, reviving old desires, the thoughtful soul to solitude retires, where the white hand of Moses on the bough puts out, and Jesus from the ground suspires. The ram indeed is gone with all his rose, and Yamshid's seven-ringed cup where no one knows. But still the vine her ancient ruby yields, and still a garden by the water blows. And David's lips are locked but in divine, high-piping Pelevi with wine, 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 red wine. The nightingale cries to the rose, that yellow cheek of hers to incarnadine. Come, fill the cup, and in the fire of spring your winter garment of repentance fling. The bird of time has but a little way to fly, and lo, the bird is on the wing. And look, 1,000 blossoms with the day woke, and 1,000 scattered into clay. And this first summer month that brings the rose shall take Yamshid and Kayakabad away. But come with old Khayyam and leave the lot of Kayakabad and Kakoshru forgot. Let Rustim lay about him as he will, or Hatim Tai try supper, heed them not. With me along the strip of herbage strown that just divides the desert from the sown, where name of slave and sultan is forgot, and pity Sultan Mahmud on his throne. Here, with a loaf of bread beneath the bough, a flask of wine, a book of verse, and thou, beside me, singing in the wilderness, and wilderness is paradise enow. How sweet is mortal sovereignty, think some, others how blessed the paradise to come. Ah, take the cash in hand and wave the rest, oh, the brave music of a distant drum. Look to the rose that blows about us, lo, laughing, she says, into the world I blow. At once the silken tassel of my purse tear, and its treasure on the garden throw. The worldly hope men set their hearts upon turns ashes or it prospers, and anon, like snow upon the desert's dusty face, lighting a little hour or two, is gone. And those who husbanded the golden grain, and those who flung it to the winds like rain, alike to no such aureate earth are turned as buried once, men want dug up again. Think, in this battered caravanserai, whose doorways are alternate night and day, how sultan after sultan with his pomp abode his hour or two, and went his way. They say the lion and the lizard keep the courts where Yamshid gloried and drank deep, and Bahram, that great hunter, the wild ass stamps o'er his head, and he lies fast asleep. I sometimes think that never blows so red the rose as where some buried Caesar bled, that every hyacinth the garden wears dropped in her lap from some once lovely head. And this delightful herb whose tender green fledges the river's lip on which we lean, ah, lean upon it lightly, for who knows from what once lovely lip it springs unseen. Ah, my beloved, fill the cup that clears today of past regret and future fears. Tomorrow? Why, tomorrow I may be myself with yesterday's 7,000 years. For some we loved, the loveliest and the best, that time and fate of all their vintage pressed, have drunk their cup a round or two before, and one by one crept silently to rest. And we that now make merry in the room they left, and summer dresses in new bloom, ourselves must we beneath the couch of earth descend, ourselves to make a couch for whom? Ah, make the most of what we yet may spend, before we too into the dust descend, dust into dust, and under dust to lie, sans wine, sans song, sans singer, and sans end. Alike for those who for today prepare, and those that after a tomorrow stare, a Metzuin from the tower of darkness cries, "Fools, your reward is neither here nor there." Why, All the saints and sages who discussed of the two worlds so learnedly are thrust like foolish prophets forth, their words to scorn are scattered, and their mouths are stopped with dust. Oh, come with old Khayyam and leave the wise to talk. One thing is certain, that life lies. One thing is certain, and the rest is lies. The flower that once has blown for ever dies. Myself, when young, did eagerly frequent doctor and saint, and heard great arguments about it and about, but evermore came out by the same door as in I went. With them the seed of wisdom did I sow, and with mine own hand laboured it to grow. And this was all the harvest that I reaped. I came like water, and like wind I go into this universe, and why, not knowing, nor whence, like water willy-nilly flowing, and out of it, as wind along the waste, I know not whither, willy-nilly blowing. What? Without asking, hither hurried whence, and, without asking, whither hurried hence, another and another cup to drown the memory of this impertinence. Up from earth's centre, through the seventh gate I rose, and on the throne of Saturn sate, and many a knot unravelled by the road, but not the knot of human death and fate. There was a door to which I found no key. There was a veil past which I could not see. Some little talk a while of me and thee there seemed, then no more of thee and me. Then to the rolling heaven itself I cried, asking what lamp had destiny to guide her little children stumbling in the dark, and a blind understanding, heaven replied. Then to the earthen bowl did I adjourn, my lip the secret well of life to learn, and lip to lip it murmured, while you live, drink, for once dead you never shall return. I think the vessel that with fugitive articulation answered once did live, and merry make, and the cold lip I kissed, how many kisses might it take and give? For in the market-place, one dusk of day, I watched the potter thumping his wet clay, and with its all obliterated tongue it murmured, gently, brother, gently, pray. Ah, fill the cup. What boots it to repeat how time is slipping underneath our feet? Unborn tomorrow and dead yesterday, why fret about them if today be sweet? One moment in annihilation's waste, one moment of the well of life to taste. The stars are setting and the caravan starts for the dawn of nothing. Oh, make haste! How long indefinite pursuit of this and that endeavour and dispute? Better be merry with the fruitful grape and sad enough to none or bitter fruit. You know, my friends, how long since in my house for a new marriage I did make carouse. Divorced old Baron Reason from my bed, and took the daughter of the vine to spouse. For is and is not, though with rule and line, and up and down, without I could define. Yet in all I only cared to know was never deep in anything but wine. And lately, by the tavern door agape, came stealing through the dusk an angel shape, bearing a vessel on his shoulder, and he bid me taste of it, and 'twas the grape. The grape that can with logic absolute the 72 jarring sects confute, the subtle alchemist that in a trice life's leaden metal into gold transmute, the mighty Mahmud, the victorious lord, that all the misbelieving and black horde of fears and sorrows that invest the soul scatters and slays with his enchanted sword. But leave the wise to wrangle, and with me the quarrel of the universe let be, and in some corner of the hubbub couched make game of that which makes as much of thee. For in and out, above, about, below, 'tis nothing but a magic shadow show, played in a box whose candle is the sun, round which we phantom figures come and go. And if the wine you drink, the lip you press, end in the nothing all things end in, yes, then fancy while thou art but what thou shalt be, nothing. Thou shalt not be less. While the rose blows along the river brink, with old Khayyam the ruby vintage drink, and when the angel with his darker draught draws up to thee, take that, and do not shrink. 'Tis all a checkerboard of nights and days, where destiny with men for pieces plays, hither and thither moves, and mates and slays, and one by one back in the closet lays.
The ball no question makes of eyes and nose, but right or left as strikes the player goes. And he that tossed thee down into the field, he knows about it all, he knows. The moving finger writes, and, having writ, moves on, nor all thy piety nor wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line, nor all thy tears wash out a word of it.
And that inverted bowl we call the sky, where under crawling coot we live and die, lift not thy hands to it for help, for it rolls impotently on as thou or I. Earth's first clay they did the last man's need, and there of the last harvest sowed the seed. Yes, the first morning of creation wrote what the last dawn of reckoning shall read. I tell thee this, when, started from the goal, over the shoulders of the flaming foal of heaven Parwan and Mushtari they flung, in my predestined plot of dust and soul. The vine had struck a fibre which about, if clings my being, let the Sufi flout. Of my base metal may be filed a key that shall unlock the door he howls without. And this I know, whether the one true light kindle to love or wrath consume me quite, one glimpse of it within the tavern court, better than in the temple lost outright. O thou, who didst with pitfall and with gin beset the road I was to wander in, thou wilt not with predestination round enmesh me and impute my fall to sin. O thou, who man of baser earth didst make, and who with Eden didst devise the snake, for all the sin wherewith the face of man is blackened, man's forgiveness give and take. Listen again. One evening at the close of Ramazan, ere the better moon arose, in that old potter's shop I stood alone, with the clay population round in rows. And, strange to tell, among the earthen lot some could articulate, while others not. And suddenly one more impatient cried, Who is the potter, pray, and who the pot? Then said another, Surely not in vain my substance of the common earth was ta'en, that he who subtly wrought me to the shape should stamp me back to common earth again. Another said, Why, ne'er a peevish boy would break the bowl from which he drank in joy. Shall he that made the vessel in pure love and fancy in an after rage destroy? None answered this, but after silence spake some vessel of a more ungainly make. They sneer at me for leaning all awry. What? Did the hand then of the potter shake? Said one, Folks of a surly tapster tell, and daub his visage with the smoke of hell. They talk of some strict testing of us. Pish, he's a good fellow, and 'twill all be well. Then said another, with a long-drawn sigh, My clay with long oblivion is gone dry, but fill me with the old familiar juice, methinks I might recover by and by. So, while the vessels one by one were speaking, one spied the little crescent all were seeking, and then they jogged each other, Brother, brother, hark for the porter's shoulder knot a-creaking. Ah, with the grape my fading life provide, and wash my body whence the life has died, and in a winding sheet of vine leaf wrapped, so bury me by some sweet garden side, that even my buried ashes such a snare of perfume shall fling up into the air, as not a true believer passing by, but shall be overtaken unaware. Indeed, the idols I have loved so long have done my credit in men's eyes much wrong, have drowned my honour in a shallow cup, and sold my reputation for a song. Indeed, indeed, repentance oft before I swore, but was I sober when I swore? And then came spring, and rose in hand, my threadbare penitence a pieces tore. And much as wine has played the infidel, and robbed me of my robe of honour, well, I often wonder what the vintners buy, one half so precious as the goods they sell. Alas, that spring should vanish with the rose, that youth's sweet-scented manuscript should close, the nightingale that in the branches sang, ah, whence and whither flown again? Who knows? Ah, love, could you and I with fate conspire to grasp this sorry scheme of things entire, would not we shatter it to bits, and then remould it nearer to the heart's desire? Ah, moon of my delight, who know'st no wane, The moon of heaven is rising once again. How oft hereafter rising shall she look through this same garden after me, in vain? And when thyself with shining foot shall pass among the guests star-scattered on the grass, and in thy joyous errand reach the spot where I made one, turn down an empty glass,